Henyard fired her chief of police late last year without any approval from the village board. So now Robert Collins has filed a lawsuit.
You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor...
All right, get ready, because this story has everything. A super mayor at odds with her own city, extravagant spending that's left Dolton drowning in debt, and some of the most bizarre public stunts you'll hear about in small town politics. Tiffany Henyard, the self-declared people's mayor of Dolton, Illinois, is back in the spotlight, but not for the reasons you'd expect from someone who's supposed to be leading her community. We're diving into a scandal that's left residents furious, allies ditching her left and right, and taxpayers asking, what exactly is going on in Dolton?
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
Let's start with Henyard's latest community event, where she was out there handing out food boxes, cooking up a storm, and giving her best for the people impression. The only problem, residents see right through it. People are fed up, and her goodwill gestures just aren't cutting it anymore. Henyard's food giveaways are supposed to be her big way of reconnecting with the people, especially as the heat from all these accusations keeps rising. But for many, it feels like a hollow attempt to regain their trust, like she's slapping a Band-Aid over a gaping wound and hoping they won't notice.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing here.
At one of her recent events, she stood proudly in front of Dolton's community members, giving away boxes of food she claimed were carefully selected to help the community. But behind her smile and public show, people were rolling their eyes, seeing this as just another PR stunt in a series of distractions from the actual problems plaguing Dolton. The disconnect is obvious. Henyard's once loyal friends and allies, who used to rally behind her, are nowhere to be seen. In fact, they're among the growing group openly criticizing her leadership. Many former supporters have even taken to public meetings and media to share just how disillusioned they've become with her leadership, showing up at meetings just to challenge her decisions.
Please tell me how you're out of order. You're out of order. How do they operate, trustees?
Some of these were her closest allies, people she depended on to back her agenda. Now they're leading the charge against her. And let's be real, she's not handling it well. At one event, witnesses reported her frustration was practically radiating off her as she tried to keep up appearances. You'd think she'd acknowledge the growing opposition, maybe even address their concerns. But Henyard's got other plans.
Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and charged.
Her response to the criticism: double down. That's right. Rather than taking a step back to reevaluate, she's taken her spending to a new level. We're talking about a mayor who, with her town already several million in debt, has been splurging on luxury hotels, high-end dining, and let's not forget the eye-watering shopping sprees, for a town that's staring down a nearly $5 million deficit. These expenses feel like a slap in the face to Dolton's working-class residents. And just to give you an idea of how deep this spending hole goes, there's the now infamous Amazon splurge January 2023. Henyard charged over $33,000 on Amazon. That's right, one click, and she's out here spending more than some people's entire annual salary. But that's not all. She made multiple purchases in one day, totaling tens of thousands on what remains a mystery. And then there was that lavish party she threw, costing around $85,000, featuring big-name R&B stars.
Who would make a one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon? And the main thing is, what is it?
Now, Henyard might argue this spending is all for the people, but when you look at the numbers, they tell a different story. Residents are furious, pointing out that this money could have gone to fix crumbling infrastructure, fund schools, or even just pay down some of that debt. Meanwhile, they're left footing the bill for her lavish lifestyle. One town official summed it up perfectly, saying it's like she's living in a completely different reality while we're paying the price. And for good reason, these kinds of purchases raise eyebrows. Where's the accountability? Where are the receipts? Well, they're rarely provided. In some cases, receipts either don't exist or are so vague it's almost impossible to figure out what was bought or why it was necessary. These transactions have even caught the attention of federal investigators who've started looking into Dolton's financial records to see just how deep this financial rabbit hole goes.
The sheriff's been out here a few times to serve them. For a household that makes, over $350,000 a year.
Even as residents grow increasingly vocal, Henyard's response has remained mostly unapologetic. She's been seen at Dolton's council meetings, often appearing frustrated with those questioning her spending. According to insiders, Henyard claims her luxurious trips and events serve a larger purpose, insisting they're necessary to attract investment to Dolton. But for locals, this explanation doesn't hold up. Many point out that the supposed benefits of her costly travels and parties are nowhere to be seen in their everyday lives. Instead, Dolton continues to struggle with basic needs, leaving citizens skeptical of any real gains. As frustration boils over, her lavish spending has led to some creative critiques from the community. One commenter online remarked, "Tiffany Henyard is like that small dog that can't and won't ever stop barking. All day, all night." Another pointed out her unique style, joking I can never, ever unsee her as Lil Wayne in an orange wig. While humorous, these comments underline the serious divide between Henyard's public image and her critics' growing discontent. Residents are making their voices heard, using humor to express a sense of betrayal and disbelief at their mayor's behavior.
Coming in, unfortunately, we knew it was going to be a little messy, but it's just something we felt important that had to be done, that should be done. But like I said, you have just some accountability.
Adding to the frustration is her administration's lack of transparency on these expenses. Journalists have struggled to obtain records detailing the mayor's spending, with many documents missing or incomplete. Some officials have pointed to vague or poorly documented credit card statements, which include everything from high-end hotels to itemized meals and decor. For Dolton's taxpayers, these secrecy tactics are another blow to their trust, confirming that the mayor's version of leadership is anything but transparent.
This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
And if the spending wasn't enough to rile people up, there's Henyard's use of the police force as her personal security team. Imagine this, officers who should be out on the streets, protecting the community, are instead following Henyard around as her personal entourage. Public events, private errands, you name it. There's a police officer there, acting more like her bodyguard than a public servant, for a small town struggling to make ends meet. This kind of resource allocation doesn't sit well with residents. They're fed up watching their tax dollars go towards her security entourage rather than patrolling their neighborhoods or responding to real emergencies. And it doesn't stop there. There have even been reports that her security detail has been used to silence critics and prevent the media from getting too close. Journalists have been blocked from public meetings, and residents claim they feel intimidated when they see her pull up with an entire squad of officers by her side.
2 agendas, 2 meetings in different locations. It was a little confusing for some residents, but the meeting here at Village Hall canceled after a few minutes because they didn't have a quorum.
It's not just local journalists and residents feeling the heat from her security team. Town officials themselves say they're being targeted. Some have accused her of using the police force to intimidate and harass them, especially those who have openly criticized her leadership. One trustee claimed that Henyard's officers even followed her on a trip, giving her tickets as a form of retaliation. Another officer allegedly admitted that he was told to target people who weren't playing along with Henyard's game. And get this, all this police overtime is adding up to $1 million in extra costs. That's right, while Dolton struggles with water main breaks and basic maintenance issues, a huge chunk of the budget is going towards Henyard's personal protection.
Called our security firm, we made sure they had wands, and we also told our board to come upstairs due to the fact they had several ways to exit out of the building.
Speaking of water main breaks, just last week, Dolton had a major infrastructure failure that some say was a direct result of mismanagement and Henyard's misplaced priorities. Residents are out here worried about getting basic services, but instead they're getting a mayor who's more concerned with her own safety than the well-being of her community. And let's be real, for the people who've lost trust in her, it's yet another example of Henyard putting herself above the town she was elected to serve. And it's not like Henyard's unaware of the growing opposition. She's decided to run for re-election anyway. That's right. Despite all the scandals, she's making her pitch to voters for another term. Her campaign approach, really on the same PR tactics that have turned so many people off in the first place. She's invested in huge billboards plastered with her image, social media campaigns, and tightly controlled public appearances to maintain her super mayor persona. But the voters? They're not buying it. They see the flashy campaigns and staged events as yet another example of how detached she's become from Dolton's reality. In her world, it's all about the image. But for the people of Dolton, it's about who's actually working to improve their lives, and Henyard's not passing the test.
Just here because I'm at wit's end and I fear that I'm going to go into foreclosure soon if I can't get this matter handled.
One of her main opponents, trustee Jason House, has publicly criticized her leadership, even going as far as forming an alternative candidate slate called Clean House to bring real transparency and accountability back to Dolton. House and his team are gaining traction with their message of change, and they're not holding back when it comes to calling out Henyard's questionable decisions. Some residents have even joined their campaign, voicing their frustration and hoping for a fresh start in local government. Meanwhile, others who once backed her feel betrayed. They're wondering where the person they voted for went, and they're rallying behind anyone who's willing to challenge her authority.
We believe strongly that that meeting was improperly called and improperly held. The residents of Dolton.
For those still on the fence, Henyard's re-election bid has only added to the tension. With ongoing federal investigations and countless public controversies, her campaign is clouded by scandal and uncertainty. Can she continue on as Dolton's super mayor, or will the truth catch up with her? In Dolton, people are left asking themselves, can the town afford another 4 years of Henyard's leadership? With the federal investigation looming and residents more vocal than ever about their disapproval, this election could change everything for Dolton. Will they choose accountability and transparency, or will Henyard manage to hold onto her power despite the odds? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if this were your town? And is Henyard's super mayor act just a way to distract from the reality of her leadership? Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into today's most shocking stories.